Well, I think, as you may well imagine, a good week, a positive week, a very upbeat group. It's amazing, as I think I said at the weekend, and you heard a million times before, what a win can do for everyone. It certainly makes the whole environment and your everyday work that much more bright and purposeful, if you like. Some really good work. We had a slightly different week this week in terms of build up into this Vancouver game, which I think has done everyone the world of good, and plenty of time to get on the field on our turf here and try and be ready for this important game.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start on the floor with Drake Hills, and then we'll go to the Zoom with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Gary, so much of the psychology of last weekend, getting the guys back rejuvenated. And at the end of that talk, we talked about CJ and Randall and those guys getting back into that belief system of they can convert as well. Has that, or how does that go about in, let's say, a week of training? How does that influence them, inspire them in a way?
I think the biggest differences that you see in people are their demeanour and their personalities when they're working and when they're coming into work. There's no doubt when things are not going the way you want them to, you tend to feel that much more disappointed and flat. It's as simple as that, really. Everything becomes a little bit more of a chore, whereas you get a good win under your belt in a very, very tight conference. I think we all know that if you can put 2 or 3 wins together, you're in a very, very strong position, and that's obviously the challenge. But as far as those guys go, for CJ and Randall, it really is about hitting the back of the net now to tick that final box. Their performances have been terrific, very influential, but I think they're in a good place, and I think they're feeling as though that moment's not too far away.
Follow up?
Yeah, just a follow up. Do you feel like an extra need given how Vancouver came and they were very stubborn in how they lined up in the shape that it was hard to break down, especially going direct at them? Do you feel that there's a need to go up there, given the only short amount of games left and the fact that Vancouver is right behind you guys in the standings? Do you feel there's an extra need to go up there and get a result?
Oh, absolutely. We're in the final stretch, and I think the understanding for every group, Vancouver no different, is that you want to take advantage of every game that's in front of you now. I'm not sure they play any differently at home than the way they do away from home. They've got a particular style. They're very well organised. I think everyone knows their roles inside out. There's flaws to every style and every group, but it's a matter of exposing those and trying to make the most of whatever moments come along. And for sure, no away game is easy, but I think we've shown throughout this year, and in fact, since we've been in existence, that it doesn't matter where we play. There's a real belief and a determination that we will get something out of the game. And I think the guys are in that mindset, especially after a good week last week.
Thank you, Coach. We'll go to the Zoom with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Gary, when you look at just like the physical distance of travel for this trip, is there anything that you do differently in terms of preparing? Do you get there earlier? Do you give certain guys a day off of training like today or yesterday or anything like that? I guess everybody had yesterday off, but you get what I'm saying.
A couple of different things. This, as I said, the week this week has been slightly different. I felt as though, maybe a recovery day straight after the game, instead of coming in and maybe having the recovery day yesterday. We've worked through. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and today we've trained, but we travel this afternoon, and that's one of the other differences. We try and give ourselves a little bit more time in market to adjust to the time zones, for the guys to find their feet, to get the flight out of our legs. We'll train tomorrow morning and hopefully be in the best physical and mental shape we can be in to go and attack the game. Aside that, Post game, there'll be some recovery work going on. We actually stay over, and we'll try and get ourselves a good night's sleep because of the time that we lose coming back. So there's a couple of things that we can do along with the modalities that are being used to try and get the legs and the body back into some sense of normality after the game, to be ready for a very big week. Start Saturday, but it is a very big week for us.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Claudio Villalobos on the Zoom. Go ahead, Claudio.
Thank you, Matt. Gary, out of 34 points, roughly, Vancouver had gained 14 points in the last 5 minutes of the games. I mean, how does a team prepare for that? Is there any way to prepare? And what are they doing well that has surprised so many teams this far?
Yeah, I listen, I think you have to put it down to, a lot of determination on their part. I would imagine they've looked at some of the data in the way that their guys are working or what they're trying to achieve late on in the game. I wonder how many of those games they've been on level terms or even behind at that point. I know that they've gone behind in games at home, and they've done ever so well to recover and put themselves in a point scoring position. The other side of it is maybe they're just taking full advantage of their home support and their home ground, and that environment that they have there has been very good to them. There's no doubt playing on turf is very different to anything else that you may well run into in the league, and they certainly have a good style that suits that. But I truly don't have an answer to it. They obviously keep themselves going to a very good degree. We're fully aware of that, and whilst I might say we'll have a plan for it, the reality is when you get into that last 5-10 minutes, a lot of things can happen in a game. What we'll try and do is put ourselves in a good position and and make the very most of being in Vancouver and earning points.
Next, we'll go to Ben Wright and then Drake Hills. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, we saw Shaq come off last time out. Do you have an update on him? Do you expect him to be available? And then I know you said Teal's probably going to be kind of maybe a little bit of a longer-term absence, but is Ake anywhere close to being available?
Shaq's in a good place. I think we called it just in time. There was actually a discussion at half-time. He said he was getting tight. And I think I was maybe more alarmed at his reaction to playing that first channel ball in the second half than anyone was, and getting him off double quickly given the position we were in. So I'm really pleased about that. He's in a good place. Teal's very, very close. Unfortunately, this one will probably be a little bit too soon for him, but he's progressing very nicely along with Aki, and I think those two guys will be looking into next week, possibly Wednesday. I would think Saturday for certain would be a return date, but we're trying to push them along, both of them, for the Wednesday against Colorado.
Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, along those lines, Gary, just with the 3 games, we haven't seen much of Jack necessarily in a starting role, and of course Ryan and Luke, those guys. Is there a pressure to potentially balance rotation, getting those guys starting minutes versus obviously making sure you're getting results with your best fit squad?
I think there always is. I know I've been asked this question before about guys coming into the group and the squad that we have. We have players that are more than capable of coming in and not only fulfilling a job or doing a particular job, but giving a good enough account of themselves to earn points. We've seen it before, and I think at this stage in the season there could well be an expectation in this 3 games that we may well see a good portion of the guys that you've mentioned. Whether that's from the start or whether that's giving 1 or 2 of those guys who are in the starting lineup a little bit of a breather in the games, but certainly the management of some of the guys' minutes are going to be very, very important given the type of season we've had.
We'll go Wes Bowling, then Tim Sullivan, Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Wes.
When you have a guy like Jacob come in and make that immediate impact, what has that done for the mood of the group? Not even just in and after the match, but in training this week as well.
Well, I think as far as debuts go, you know, it's got to be up there with them. I know it was only 45 minutes, but it was a great 45 minutes. Wonderful impact goal, and I think we can say instrumental part in earning the free kick for Hanny, although there was a lot to do. That's one piece of the puzzle, you know. It's a big piece of the puzzle, having a player come in and give us a different dimension, give us a different look. I think that in itself was a real boost for a lot of the guys to see a new set of legs, a new face, and a new creative individual. But I think the type of guy he is as well, you know, there's no real way of knowing what the person's going to be like when they come in, how they're going to interact with the team. But you know, some of the investigating we did before, I think has been borne out. He's a wonderful lad. He's very hard working, and he's fitted in, slotted into the group fantastically well. And my only hope is that he can be as impactful throughout the remaining 7 games as he was in his debut.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, Gary, you've talked a lot in the past few weeks about how important home matches are as you enter this home stretch, in part because there are so many of them. But how do you, I guess, recontextualize it when it is time to go on the road? Obviously, every point is important, but how do you kind of, you know, hammer home that road matches are where you guys have done a lot of your succeeding so far this year?
I think when you get to this point in the season, Tim, as we all well know, the away games, especially against teams that are in and around the playoff line, as Vancouver are, and then obviously we go to Austin and LA, who are the top 2 teams. Every point's valuable. Every point, as you've just said, is important. Somehow, some way, you've got to try and find a competitive mindset, put the games, the home games out of your mind, and just try and compartmentalise each and every game. I think this one will be a little bit easier given where it is when we're travelling. There's not too many distractions. You're on the road. You're on the plane for a long time. You know what the you know what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to go with a group. But you know, we certainly will. I think in the end, our season will be determined out of the 4 home games. If we can put ourselves in a position where, at very worst, Vancouver don't and are not able to, you know, leapfrog us and put themselves in a stronger position. I think that's the least we need to get out of this game. Of course, if we can win it, even better.
On both sides of the ball. Have you, and we're seeing him aiming more at the goal, trying to get on the score sheet. Have you felt any type of frustration from him? Have you talked to him about the fact that he has not been and he would love to score once again?
Yeah, I think Reynolds, like any player, any forward, any creator, he wants to make a difference. He personally wants to put himself in a position where he's having an impact on the game. I think he dismisses the amount of work that he does for the team, the way that he conducts himself from a purely you know, physical and data standpoint. He is a tremendously hard-working player, and I think he personally doesn't take enough on board and enough credit for that. But of course he wants to score goals. Yes, there's been a little bit of anxiety. I think there have been 1 or 2 situations where he may have taken an opportunity when he might have been able to slide someone else in or create a different you know, creative position. But look, you know, when you're seeing, you know, what we're achieving, the positions we're getting in, I would never want to stop anyone, you know, trying to take that moment to make a difference. I think they're very, very fine lines between this should be passed and I should be taking the initiative here. And I think to that degree, we can say that there's no chance of Randall ever dodging the question that's being asked, and that is, can we score a goal? He wants to score a goal. He's got the character and the mental strength to be taking those moments, and I've no doubt it won't be too long before we see him back on the sheet again.
Thank you, Coach. We'll wrap up your session today with Ben Wright. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, I mean, we've seen a bunch of times in the past just how teams can kind of struggle a little bit through the summer, but then if they get hot towards the playoffs, they can go on a run in the postseason. I know the points are the most important thing heading to Vancouver, but how important is it to not just get a result, but to kind of follow up on the form that you guys had at home against Dallas and to kind of keep that up through this stretch?
I'd love to, as much as possible, Ben. You're right. Momentum is a really good tool for any team coming into this final stretch. It's compounded and made more difficult, of course, because of the conference we're in and some of the journeys that we've had to make. But absolutely, I mean, I think if we can somehow get close to the type of form that we've shown in our last 3 home games in terms of creativity and opportunities, I'm not banking on that. This is not an easy game. They're a very different team to the 3 we've just run into. But we have a nice platform here, and there's a really good confidence in the group. There's a belief that maybe we've turned the corner. We have 4 games still to play at home, albeit against some good sides, but it's been no different over the last 3 games. We've played some terrific teams, and we've been very creative at home. So this one represents something slightly different, but to your point, to maintain this momentum would certainly be hugely helpful.
Dave, when you've had a stretch, excluding Sunday, but before that, where you guys seem to be playing pretty well but not getting the results, how relieving is it to kind of turn that around and get the result, and how can you build upon that and make sure that you guys kind of live up to the creation and on your side of the ball, prevention that you've been able to do?
It's huge. It's a huge confidence boost. It gets extremely frustrating when you play really well for a handful of games in a row and you either catch a bad break here or you get a no VAR call. I mean, we had the 3 straight 1v1 or 1-1 games where we had penalties not called or fouls that weren't called and just set piece plays we gave up, and it's tough to defend well for a long stretch of time and just not get shutouts. So it just felt really good to have everything kind of go our way, get a shutout, and just kind of all that frustration kind of just finally get it off our chest, and then we can play each game forward with ever more confidence.
Next, we'll go to Wes Bowling and then Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Wes.
You've been such a bedrock defensively for this team now since its inception. What does it mean, though, to also have that impact on the score sheet and get to contribute some goals this year?
Yeah, it's nice. It's always, that's never what I'm thinking going into a game, but it's always nice to a little cherry on top. It didn't really mean anything in the Dallas game because we were already up 3-0, but it's always fun to score. It's always nice to get on the score sheet, but my job first and foremost is defending, getting a clean sheet, and then just kind of starting the attack. But if we're ever in a tight game and get a goal, then it feels that much better.
Next, we'll go Claudio Villalobos and then Drake Hills. Go ahead, Claudio.
Dave, taking into account the contribution that Shaq has brought to the team, which is obvious, how much you guys in the middle, like the center backs, have to adjust because of the fact that he might be caught more often than not up there when he's so much his mind so much offensively, but to put it that way, has it been a long work in terms of adjustment to his play?
Not too much. I think the only adjustment has been Gary has been had a little tighter leash on Lovitz going forward, and we kind of almost rotated into a back 3 again of Lovitz being the left center back if Shaq's getting really high forward, and that's kind of the only adjustment we've had. But he has been adamant of Shaq having more free reign to go forward and start stuff in the attack, and then anytime Lovitz notices that, kind of just be a little bit more cautious on going forward because Shaq has been so aggressive and he's creating a lot of things down that side, and it's creating a lot of chances for us. So it's just little adjustments like that, but it hasn't been too difficult, I would say.
Next, we go to Drake Hills and Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Dave, just looking at the result as it was last weekend, Is there something psychologically where you guys are wanting to prove to your guys, to yourselves, that this isn't just a one-time result, that you guys don't want to be seen as, that was like a fluke of any sort, that you guys want to get the momentum and prove that you guys are back into the side?
For sure. I mean, maybe that's somebody who hasn't really been watching our games. Like someone, if I was just playing for Cincinnati and I was just saying like, oh, Nashville lost. Oh, they won 4-0. That was a fluke. But I think if anyone was actually watching our games, and then us personally, knowing how well we were playing and know how many chances we were getting, and then knowing like the soft goals we were giving up, I think we knew internally, look, we're playing well, we're just not getting results. So it was nice to just finally have things go our way. So I don't think it was anything where we need to prove to ourselves like, hey, this wasn't a fluke. We know it wasn't a fluke because we've played really well before and have been, but it's just, it did feel extremely nice to finally have everything go our way. And it's kind of frustrating that it all went our way in one game for 4-0 rather than a bunch of like 2-1s where we're picking up like 3 straight wins, which would have been nice. But regardless, it's really good to have a 4-0 game, and everyone played extremely well. But yeah.
Next, we go to Tim Sullivan, then Ben Wright. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, Dave, you asked me the XG of one of your shots before, so I know you pay attention to that sort of stuff. But when you look at the kind of the struggles that you guys had within the past few weeks, when you look at kind of the top line stats and see that it doesn't reflect the score, does that kind of give you encouragement that you're close? Does it frustrate you even more that you are playing really well but not winning? How does that kind of affect your mentality as a team?
I mean, those 2 points you made, I'd say it's probably both of those. I mean, it is reassuring because we know we're not playing well, but then at the same time, it is really frustrating that the way we're playing isn't translating into results. So, I mean, it was just one game, and we know the West is so extremely tight right now. So, and then Vancouver's in a very similar situation to us. So we have to treat all of these like 6-point games where if we drop 3 points to them, that's another 3 points they're getting. And these games are just so important against these Western Conference teams. So, yeah, I think I might have gotten off topic on that one, but yeah.
We'll go to Ben Wright and then Drake Hills. Go ahead, Ben. I almost said Drake Sullivan.
Yeah, Dave, it's almost been like a recurring trope, I guess, in MLS sometimes that teams will kind of just tread water during the summer and then get hot down the stretch. I asked Gary a similar question, but how important is it to not just get these points, which obviously you need, but to kind of keep up this form down the stretch and heading into the playoffs to set yourselves up for success in the postseason?
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, we've seen teams win MLS Cup from almost every position in the playoffs. So if you can get in, then you can. If you're playing hot, you can go on a run and you can win the title. And I think if we finish really well, that'll be a testament to us that we can beat any team in the playoffs. I mean, we finished with Galaxy, Austin twice, and LAFC. So if we get results against those teams, we know going into the playoffs where we're probably going to have to go away to Austin or LAFC eventually, that we couldn't get a result against those teams. So it's just, I think if we are playing really well, we beat them in the regular season now. If we face them really soon in the playoffs, we'll have even that much more confidence to get an away result against them.
Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, in terms of playing out of the back from your position as a center back in Vancouver, what made it so difficult the first time to break them down and directly in a way, and how do you go about doing that again? Can you break down what made it so difficult based off of their shape and whatnot?
Yeah, they have a kind of a different shape, and they really pack the middle. They kind of just are baiting you into turnovers in the middle, so we just have to move the ball extremely quick around the back line, either play around them, and then if we're moving the ball quick enough, then maybe we can get some entry passes into the forwards and the 10s and stuff like that. But they try to just compact their defense so much and then bait you to try to play in. So as long as we're just moving the ball extremely quickly, precisely, then I think we have a shot to break them down.